Hello everyone, my name is Rene and welcome to another Unity free tutorial. Today I'm going to talk about the user interface or heads-up display in your game or project, the way I've created it for the free version of Unity. Here I have a project I've been working on for a school and the community for a health center for people to get their bearings if they haven't visited yet. Kind of a virtual tour. And I'm going to be talking about these picture buttons I've gotten into the game. And now you see that the tour starts automatically, and then you have buttons that when you hover, it changes, and then when you click, it changes again. So uh, the way I found that I would manage to do that is through the GUI, but in changing the backgrounds of a GUI style. So here I have my heads-up display. So I've created a variable with a 2D texture, as I said in part one, kind of like a Ziploc container that's expecting fruits and vegetables, but in this case, it's expecting kind of like a picture. It's expecting pictures. So I have my heads-up display, and I've made them public so I can set them up and change the buttons easily without going in the code and put them statically. So you essentially have to create three versions of each buttons. So you have a hover, a down, and just the regular button. And I have three versions of each button. And then in your script, you create a variable for each state. So you have your buttons, you have your hovers, and then you have your down states for each button. So there should be three versions of each. And then you can set up rectangles, which is essentially a variable that holds coordinates and the width and height of your picture. I've made it public, so down here I can set them up. So say in here I want to change the info, I want to change the position, and that's where I want it. The easiest way is to press play. Now it erases everything, which is alright. You can position everything where you want it. You can change their width and height. So when you make in Photoshop, just keep a note of how big your photo is and set it up. And then once you're set up everything good you want on the screen, just copy your component, stop it, and then you go to your scene, and you can go to your menu, and you can right click and paste component values, and it pastes all the values that you were playing with. So it's an easier visual way of setting up your menu without setting it up, writing it on paper, stopping it, and rewriting it. It's just a quick, easy tip there. So go back to, don't save. Nope, I don't have to change. Garden. Okay, so I have rectangle positions for each button. You only have to create one for each set of three. And then down, and then I have the option the menu game objects to grab all the other menus so you can turn them on and off depending on what buttons you press. And then here I have GUI styles. So essentially a GUI style is a file. I've downloaded free ones from the asset stores. There's a few free ones, and then you can just modify the pictures, change the colors or the shapes, and then it should work. But essentially setting up your own, it takes a while. You have to set up all these fields, or at least the ones that you need, but the ones you need takes a little while to find them. So I've used these ones. There's a white one. I've gotten one for the main menu on these white ones. So I've created new ones. It's like I've made empty ones. Like I've created one of these files, but they're just empty. And then down here, each style. So the stop style is the first one I've created. New style. So I've created a container, but I'm about to shove something new into it. So stop style normal. This is the normal button, and then just make it point to the regular button texture. Then the hover background, make it point to the hover texture. And then the active background, just make it point to the down texture. So up here I have all my menus being grabbed, and then these ones will turn all of them off except for your user interface or heads up display of these buttons. And it's once you set up all your buttons, so I have all these buttons on the screen. I've set up a label. I haven't set like a texture, but this is for the labels up here. So it's size 24 and the color white, which is fine. Now before I get to on GUI, you'll notice that sometimes when you use textures, they're really blurry. You can just go to your textures and then here, they might be set to texture, which I'll turn on. I'll turn on the walk faster. Revert texture. Anyway, in game they might show up blurry, so just change them to GUI and they'll be sharper and a lot more clear. Because textures are usually just a little bit blurry because they don't want to save some space because they cover a lot of your level. Alright, so let's get to the on GUI. So the first thing it does, it draws. I know this background's going to be on the screen the whole time, even if my roam, which is when you click, it lets you move and it takes out the whole menu on the bottom. Let's put that back on. It draws that white rectangle here, and then it draws my settings. So I have the button is the rectangles I've created up here. So just shove the rectangle that you've assigned to the proper one. Don't put a label because they're technically not displaying the default GUI buttons. They're just backgrounds. You could overlay something if you really wanted to for a name, and then set up the style so these three things will show up as your buttons. The settings will turn on the options, turn off the user interface, and set the player to speed because I don't want the player to move while you're fiddling around with options. Then I have the exit button, turns off the user interface, turns on the loading screen, sets the player speed to 0, and then it loads the level for the scene beforehand, the menu scene. Okay, so down here I have if my player variable roam is set to true, then don't draw any of these buttons. So I have the HUD down, which is what I call this green background. I don't want it to be a clickable button. I just want it to be shown on screen. The speed is just the bar between the buttons, just a visual indication of how fast you're going. And then I have an if statement that if you've reached your end destination, change the label to these instructions. If not, just draw this thing. So I'll just show you right there, our magical line of wonder. You have reached the garden, and you can look around, choose another destination with go to. So you can just look around, and it stopped drawing the other label. I've also made it. I've set the rectangle statically because I know these messages won't change. I know you can set your own variable if you really wanted to. Here in the player variable script, I've just made a function that just assigns a name to the numbers. So I can, instead of getting you have reached destination 1, that doesn't tell the user much. So I just made a little function that just assigns the name to the numbers. So it just checks what end destination is. If 1, just set this string to front lobby and then return it. So when you have reached plus, and then it should be garden, and then the label style of 24, and then the color white. So good stuff. And then I have the info button down here, the stops, the forward, and the fast forward here. And these buttons just set the player speed to different variables. And then down here, it checks what the speed is, so the slider in the middle is changed accordingly. So I've built 3 different sliders, one just a blank texture, so there's nothing that shows up. And then the walk, I've already reached my destination, and then a walk that fills it up, and then that's when I press that one, it's another picture. They're 3 separate pictures. Alright, so that's how I've gone through and and you made my user interface. Now, there's obviously probably better ways of doing that. Pro version might have some better ways, and Unity 4.6 is supposed to come out with a new menu system, which I'm looking forward to. Again, I hope I've helped someone. I'll leave a link to my portfolio set down in the link below. If you went too fast, the power of YouTube, you could just pause that bar and put it HD and zoom in on the web browser. Thank you for watching and have a great day.